friends, and welcome to the Dance Principals United podcast. Beck, you and I are just having a nice little groove to our own music there, having the best time. Happy New Year, my bestie.
Happy New Year. I wish everyone saw us because we always just have a little groove together before the session starts. I love it. It's good fun.
Well, our friends on YouTube can see us. So, Beck's like, I don't even know that's happening. Our friends on YouTube can see us grooving out and
awesome.
Living our best life. Now you're going to reconsider your dance moves, right?
I'm possibly going to reconsider these headphones as well.
Well, welcome to the 2024 season of the Dance Principals United podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Barr, along with my amazing co-host, Rebecca Liu-Brennan. We are so excited that you've chose to join us today and pumped for a new year.
I'm so pumped for a new year, and we've been talking to a lot of our SGC members this week about, you know, getting excited about this year now and really getting focused on it, reflecting on what you did well last year, reflecting on what you didn't do well last year,
Absolutely.
and then stepping up and just like smashing this year. It's a new year. I get so excited about a new year. I don't know about you, Amanda, but I'm like, there is so much we can achieve. And when we looked back, you and I, on what we achieved last year, it was like really epic, man. Like we really like did so much stuff. But I feel like that's everyone. You forget
Absolutely.
how much you did until you actually go back and you're like, oh my God, I did that and that and that and that. And then you're like, wow, I actually really achieved a lot. And I think that's an important process, don't you?
Absolutely. We talk about that a lot. You've got to celebrate your wins, because if you don't, no one else is there to celebrate them for you. No one else is giving you a pat on the back. You've got to, be your own cheerleader, because that's what it's all about. And every single one of us, did incredible things and took steps forward. I'll get that right. Steps forward in 2023. But, even if you're not 100% happy with how many, steps forward you took, it's a new year and there's so many new possibilities. And that's the exciting thing about a new year, right?
So exciting, so exciting. Well, what are the big things that we noticed that's coming up a lot in our groups last year, all the things, is team,
Absolutely.
Issues with teachers, issues with team, and it tends to be like this trend, right, Amanda?
Look, it does. And I always found it the hardest part of being a business owner was managing a team well. And, I had a big team and I loved it, but it's a lot, right? It takes a lot out of us. And I actually found it was a bigger emotional toll than the students was the team. And I think that you probably get to a point that's like that, depending on, as you kind of grow as a studio owner, because I found that my main role, I was no longer teaching lots of classes or anything like that. My main role was being there to support and be a cheerleader for my team. So that's what I found, I guess, the hardest thing, the best thing and the hardest thing. It can be both, right?
Yep. It was definitely, I had some hard times with it last year for sure. And you really have to self-reflect on those hard times, I believe, and go, where could I have changed? What could I have done differently? Where did I go wrong? And I think that self-reflection is so important as a leader, because it is very easy to blame your team for everything. I used to be that person. I think we've all been there where we've blamed a teacher. That's why that's happened, or that's a staff member did that. But I think as leaders, and, I've really learned as an older business owner now, is that you have to consistently actually self-reflect, because it does really stop with you. It is you being the leader, and it is you needing to be there to support, guide, and, like you said, care about your team.
Absolutely. And, if this is something that you feel that you can do work on, it's fine. It's a process, right? There's no end destination. Like, I think that's a big thing for business, right? There's no finish point. It's a journey the whole time. And, it doesn't matter. We talked about this yesterday. It doesn't matter if you own Apple or you're the CEO of Amazon or whatever that is, right? They don't wake up and go, yes, I'm done. I've finished and I've won at business. There is no day that a CEO would do that. Every day it's like, hey, this is my next challenge. This is the next thing I want to achieve. It's an ongoing process, and it is for you too. So if it's something you've struggled in the past, self-reflect. How can you be better this year? And how can you set your team up for incredible success for 2024? Because, ultimately it's you that sets them up for success.
Yeah, totally. And I love that, everybody is constantly, I'm still learning every single day about team, and team's the thing I teach most, as you know, Amanda, but every single day I'm learning. And I think, it's important to never stop that and to change your systems. We often find that people don't want to change the way they're doing things because they've done it for that long and they just want to get stuck in their ways. And no big business that's continued throughout time has ever done that. They always are consistently evolving, changing, doing all the things. And I think that's really important as well.
Absolutely. So we're going to chat about a couple of our tips for setting up for success in 2024. And my first big one is setting clear expectations, because I think that's where, confusion happens, where there's disagreements, where you sometimes feel as a studio owner, I can't believe they're not doing that. Or they might feel the opposite, like, oh my God, she never told me that, and there's all this like bickering back and forth. And I think a lot of that comes down to not setting clear expectations, right?
Oh, totally agree. And I think the other thing is, like, we think that people are going to have the exact same work ethic that we have. So, like, you know what I mean? Like,
or skill set.
Or skill set, or just assume that we think that they should know those things. Like, for example, I was giving these examples the other day, but it's like, for example, sitting down in class. Now, it's a non-negotiable with my staff that they don't sit down in class. I think that they should be up, have the energy in class. But if they're allowed to sit down in another studio and you haven't told them they're not supposed to sit down and they're just sitting down teaching because that's what they do everywhere, how do they know that's your expectation? Or being on their phone in class. Like, I know to us it seems really obvious that they should not be on their phone in class, and that's just obvious. But again, like, if you don't tell them that that's an expectation, when the kids go get a drink break and they then go on their phone and then they get distracted, as we all do. I'm so capable of this myself, get distracted and then they're there and then the kids are all staring at them waiting, and then the studio owner loses their mind because they know that, they shouldn't be on their phone, and how could they not know that? Just give them that expectation. Like, I think there's things that we think are obvious that aren't. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And, there are things, and it's so different. Like, you were using the, sitting down in class analogy. I was talking about your process for drink breaks, for going to the toilet in the middle of class with your students. There's so many things like that. What about like packing up? Do you expect them to turn the fans off and the lights off if they're the last class of the night? Or does the admin or the studio owner go and do that? They're things where sometimes there's not a right or a wrong way. And I think that's a big thing, like, how you let the children, when you let them have their drink breaks, or how you, control that in your classroom, for example. Sometimes there's not a right or a wrong way. There's many different ways to do that. But if you have like strict thoughts or clear thoughts on how you want your students at your studio to be doing that, that's fine. But it's important that you clearly communicate that, because otherwise, how's the other teacher meant to know?
Totally. And I think even the way that they teach the children, like, what sort of a school are you? What are your values? Do you want every child to feel special? Do you want the kids to be really pushed because it's a really elite training studio?
Yes.
And how do you want them to be pushed? How do you want the kids to be spoken to? Because a lot of teachers have come from a certain school where they were spoken to a certain way, and they're just going to come in your studio and do the exact same thing. And that's just because that's where they've come from. But if they know what your expectations are, I know in every interview, that's the first thing I talk about, Amanda, is the values of our school, the expectations in a class, how we want things run, because I want to make sure that teacher feels comfortable with that, because if they don't, they're not the right teacher for me. But I think those expectations are important too, right?
Absolutely. There's so many things in terms of the classroom management that are so valuable for you to share with your team. And it's that thing, you can't just tell them once. You know, you used the example before that if they'd spent 20 years growing up in, you know, studio number X, and then they come to your studio and you do it completely different. If you just tell them once, they're going to slip back into bad habits. That's just how we all are. It doesn't mean they're a bad employee. It means that you need to be, you know, mentoring them more. You need to be reminding them. Also talking about your why. Not just, hey, I only believe in giving one drink break a class, but the why behind it as well, because that'll help them understand it. You know, the drink break is just an example, but whatever that is for you, I think it's important to explain the why behind it.
Absolutely. And Amanda, you and I are talking about explaining. And one of the big mistakes that we see a lot of studio owners do is they send this in a document or an email or a 10-page, what do they call it? Like teacher, I don't know.
Yeah, teacher hand, you know, a teacher handbook or something like that.
So I'm telling you now, I've worked for a lot of businesses because I did retail for a lot of years, as you know. I never once would have read any of the handbook.
No.
But if that manager came and spoke to me and talked to me about all of that stuff, I'm going to listen to it. So
absolutely,
my biggest suggestion is don't avoid the confrontation with this and write it all down and expect them to read it and then say, oh, but it was in the handbook, because no one reads the
section
handbook.
5.2, you know, or whatever that is. Like, yeah, it's just silly, right? And I think, you know, like if you do want to have some things written down, I do think it's important to have some things written
totally.
down.
I'm all about teacher contracts and stuff like that. 100%.
All of that, you know, so don't get us wrong. There are definite things you need to have written down to protect both you and your employee. However, a discussion it can't ever be replaced, because it can be a back and forth. You can explain your why. They could say, oh, that's not how I've done that. Oh, that would be weird. And you can talk them through it. A discussion is so much more valuable. So I think clear expectations around classroom management is important, but also clear expectations around, you know, additional things that are going on in your studio. You know, we've all just gone through concert time, and so many of us in the past have had, let's call them icky moments around your staff at concert time, whether that's them telling you last minute that they're not coming to rehearsal, whether that's going, oh, I thought I was going to be paid X amount for this and you're only paying me this amount, you know, whatever that is. We've all had icky moments around that time, you know, them pulling out on photo days, them, all of those things. So set the expectations now. You know, cover yourself now so that there's no icky moments at the end of the year. You know, talk to them now about their expectations on concert day, on presentation day, on photo day, what dates they are, if you have the dates, or what dates you expect them to be, how much they're going to get paid, what hours you're going to expect them. And obviously you can confirm it later, but going through that now and talking about clear expectations now, it saves so much headache later on in the year.
Totally. And what about expectations with routines? Like, what sort of music do you want them to have?
Absolutely.
When is the routine expected to be finished by, so the kids know exactly what they're doing on stage? Because we've all had that moment where the routines come on stage for rehearsal, whatever it is, and the kids have absolutely no idea what they're doing and you're in a panic. You know, expectations around, do you expect the lines to change so that every student is in front? Or maybe you're in elite training school and you don't expect that and you want those kids to be showcased. Whatever it is, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that they need to know.
It's your expectations.
Exactly. And, you know, there's nothing worse than getting to concert time and realizing that things aren't where you expected them to be. And again, you need to self-reflect and say, well, did I set those expectations clearly enough from the get-go?
Absolutely. So we are all about incredible staff training days to be having these discussions. You know, how do you run it at Paws, Beck? Like, how do you set these expectations? I know you've got some new staff starting this year. What's your plan with, you know, starting these new staff on the right foot?
So much. So we've got a 6-hour training session and they're all coming, and even a couple of them, I was saying the other day, have gigs and they're actually zooming in from the gig. That's because I put that very clear in their contracts, in everything from the get-go, that they are expected to be there on those days.
From their interview, is that right? Like from their interview, you talk about that they're expected, because they're not the right person if they don't want to do that for you.
100%. And it's a non-negotiable. It's a, you know, you must be see there.
Yes.
So we always start with goals, setting their goals, talking about their goals for their classes, because I like to hear that. Then I always go into jump in, which is bringing new kids into the class, especially at this time of year. I think that's very important. So we actually act that whole process out. We even act out the end of that process where they have to come in and actually learn whether they say to the admin person, this is such and such, and they want to enroll, whether they show them to the uniform. So just giving them that whole process.
So that role playing kind of idea, right?
Absolutely. So they know exactly how all of that works, and my expectations that they walk out of the classroom with the new parent. I think that's all really important. We'll sit down definitely and do some concert and routine planning and chat about all of those sorts of things. And that's where I'll put my expectations in and around that. We'll also just do general expectations, and I just have slides of, like you said, what's expected at the end of the night, what time they're expected to be in class. You know, they're expected to be at class 15 minutes before, then they're expected to go into the waiting area and chat to parents and kids. Like, all of those things are set out very, very, very clearly for them.
I love that. So your staff training day, you're saying it's like 6 hours long. You know, how do you get them excited about their staff training? Does your team love the staff training? Do they look forward to it?
Love it. Love it, love it. And I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again because I know we've got lots of new listeners, but I've had some very high-end teachers who were not impressed at all. Let me tell you that they had to come to staff training. And at the end, like, they kind of really humped in, like they were really cranky. I could tell from the get-go, and they had that, oh, can't believe I have to be here kind of face on, even though I paid them for the day.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we're talking about, teachers that go to all the full-time studios and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. And they're quite, Insta famous and all of that style, right?
Exactly. And one of my proudest moments as a studio owner was at the end of one of those training sessions when one of them stood up and said that this was the most amazing thing they've ever had. They've never had this at any studio, that they feel so uplifted and empowered by the day, that they are just so grateful for it, and they loved it. And I think that was a moment for me to go, okay, we're doing something good here. And, they want to feel like they know exactly what they're doing as well. And they feel more comfortable in your studio when they know what they're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. Everyone wants to know what they're doing. They want to feel confident in their job, right? They want to feel super confident with what they're doing and that they're providing a great, class, service, whatever that is for your clients. And a couple of things that, like, I know you do, Beck, and, you talked about that this particular teacher, loved the day and was so excited. And one of the things we talked about, we had a Tribe Masterclass on this the other day, which I know so many of our members loved. And one of the things we talked about was not talking at your staff. No one wants to go back to Year 9 English and be spoken to and, fed things from a teacher that's so boring. That's not what inspires a team. What inspires a team is setting goals together, working together. And obviously, as the leader, you lead the conversation. That's how it works, and you lead the expectations. But you also have to give them a voice, because so many of our team have so many great ideas. And you need to hear that too, because you've got to give them a little bit of power in the room as well, because what makes a great team, right?
Oh, 100%. I remember one of the sessions we did was how we're going to make every child in the class feel special, because we'd had quite a bit of feedback. And I often do sessions around, negative feedback that we get from clients, because I get negative feedback and I go, okay, fair call. How can I change this? And so we have really big classes at Pause. And so one of the negative feedbacks was that this child was, a quiet, well-behaved child who just felt like they weren't ever given any notice, because they weren't one of the best dancers. They weren't one of the worst dancers. They weren't a naughty kid. And so they're just doing their thing, but they don't get any feedback. So my session was on, totally fair. So my session was on, how can we make every child in the class feel special? And so we all break off into groups and come up with these different ways. And man, my staff came up with so many great ideas around this, and it really changed the culture of the school straight away. You know, I could see it
Amazing.
straight away that they were making that effort to make every child feel special, to name every child, to, you know, they had different tools that they were each doing in each class. Even hip hop was doing like a circle at the end where each child got to do a bit of a dance break and they were, you know, going, yeah, for them. And so
Yeah.
just things like that where your team get to chat to each other and come up with ideas and then share those ideas with the whole team. And then everyone's like, yes, that's amazing, is so powerful. It's so powerful.
Absolutely. And, you know, the team are going to respond so much better to that when the ideas are their own as well, not just all of your ideas as well. And I think that's so, so valuable. We've seen some of our incredible SGC members, our Studio Growth Club members, you know, really, you know, run with the idea of team training. You know, Dancing with Marie from Dancing with Marie. Oh my God, she's running like these epic trainings. She's doing gift bags for all the team so they feel really valued. And not spending a lot of money, but just, you know, something that's on the desk that makes them like walk in and go, oh, this is nice. This is a bit special. I know she did like drink bottles for them and like personalized notebooks and stuff like that. You know, having these like really nice lunches, like just little things like that can make your team feel valued, right?
Wow, the growth in her though, because
Oh my God.
you know, when I
Shout out
started,
Marie. We love Marie.
oh my gosh. So I started with Marie before Studio Growth Club doing
Yes.
teacher training, which I used to do, as you know, and go into different studios and do teacher training. And she, the first time, was even too scared to stand up in front of her staff. She didn't even do that. And now she's running the most epic training days that are so inspiring and amazing. And it is scary that first time. I totally agree. The first time I did it, I was absolutely pooing my pants. And especially because I think it's really important to stand up in front of them as their leader and not talk at them. I'm not saying that, you know, as we said, but to be standing and they're sitting and you're, you know, the leader in the room as any retail or whatever would. And I think the first time is scary. And then they love it. And then the second time is as you do it, it gets easier and easier and easier and you get better and better at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just love some of those like little things that make a big difference, right? Like, you know, I've done them at different venues just to kind of like change it up. Like I've hired a space to make it exciting. And that's great. But then even sometimes just setting up the tables in a different way in the studio, you know, bringing in a big screen so that I can put slides on, you know,
Yes, I do that.
little things like that,
Yep.
you know, it can make such a big difference. Like it just sounds so little, but it just makes the staff walk in and go, oh, this is fun. This is different. I feel important. I feel special. Rather than it just be like, hey, we're just all hanging out on the waiting room chairs. It's not in any kind of order. Like, you know what I mean? Because so many of our staff have never had the chance, you know, especially if they're young or, to be honest, like, you know, if they've been dance teachers, they've never been to a conference or anything like that. So to give them that kind of experience can be super exciting for them.
And it doesn't have to be expensive. Like you can get super cute notebooks and little pens from Kmart that you can stick on
Absolutely.
all of their seats. You can get a Woolworth platter of the wraps from Woolworths. God, those Woolworths wraps are nice. Actually, you can
Oh my
get
God,
it
they're
from
so good.
They're so good. You can get it from Coles too.
We're
And
going to
you know
go
what?
off topic.
No, this is not off topic because I think this is important for them to cater the event is where I'm getting
Absolutely.
to. Because
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
if you cater it and they are all given lunch rather than them going out and getting lunch, lunchtime can be the most amazing part of that journey because they're all chatting together and getting to know each other better. But
Absolutely.
like, you know, even Coles, you can get dessert boxes now from Coles. Like there's so many cheap options for you
So
to
many
just
good options.
make them feel valued, like you said, Amanda, and make them feel
Absolutely.
special on that day. And it just lifts that day up.
Absolutely. You know what I've done even? And, you know, we have our favorite cafe across the road from the studio that was there. And so, you know, I just had their like menus, like I retyped them up and let them tick what they wanted. And then, you know, we ran them over so that they were all ready and then the cafe delivered them to us.
Love
But,
that.
you know, just letting them like tick the menu and write their name and that kind of thing. Like it's nice, right? It's like when you go to a big event, it's fun to do that and it's a bit exciting and a bit different. And those things, you know, they can mean a lot to your staff.
Yes,
And I think that's so, so lovely.
I know when you did this amazing session for Tribe, Amanda, you were talking to them about involving your staff in your goals. And I
Absolutely.
think that's really important as well, like letting them be a part of those goals and relating it to them, like obviously not saying, I want to get 300 students so I can go to America this year, but like
So I can make
actually
more
like,
money,
yeah,
buy a nice
but
car.
right, not doing that, but relating
No.
it to them that bigger classes is better for them because it's more fun and it's
Absolutely.
easier to teach bigger classes because it goes quicker. Like it's so
Your
hard to
choreo
teach
looks better
2
on
kids
stage.
over
Yep.
15.
Absolutely.
And also that you're affecting more children in a positive way. And we know that's why they're doing what they do. They love affecting kids in a positive way. And I think that's important as well.
Absolutely. I think, allowing them to set those goals and also talk about what's in it for them. Because, like you said, like if there's nothing in it for them, I understand why they're a bit like, why do I want to work hard for this goal? It's not my goal, it's the studio owner's goal. But if it's what's in it for them, they can get more excited about it. And what's in it for them can be, things like, your choreo looks better, the class is easier to teach. It could be, hey, we can finally move to that bigger concert venue, that better theatre because we've got more students. Or, our ongoing goal is that we go to a bigger premises, or that you might get more work, or that I can put you on full-time or permanent part-time. It might be that you can afford to send them to a staff training. Or it might be that, you go out as a team and celebrate when you hit a certain number. But those things are what gets your staff excited, not just, hey, we want to hit 300 students because I want 300 students.
Totally. And I remember one of the first times I spoke to my staff about preschool numbers, which was,
Yes.
good 10 years ago now, and wanting to really build that. And one of the staff members then said, hey, I'd love to go around to the preschools and hand out flyers for you. Would that be something you're interested in? Like sometimes they volunteer to then help you grow.
Absolutely.
Like you don't even realize that, but some of them are actually really excited to help with that stuff.
Absolutely, because everyone wants to be a part of something bigger. Everyone wants to be, part of a team, and a part of a team that's doing incredible things. So that's our challenge to you is, really set your team up for success in 2024.
Yep.
Set clear expectations with them so that there's nothing left to chance. And, you really need to be self-reflecting on if something's happened in the past. Is it because you weren't super clear about those expectations? And also dream big with them. Set goals together. Get excited about the possibilities together and celebrate together. I think that's our biggest takeaways from today, right, Beck?
Yep, absolutely, guys. So hopefully we've inspired you to really think about your team this year, to get on top of it, to spend that time with them, and to really make those expectations clear and, self-reflect on where you went wrong last year and change it up this year, because this year is going to be epic.
We cannot wait to help you run the most incredible studio of your dreams in 2024. Hey, if you need any help, we are here. Drop us a DM. We'd love to have you join us in Dance Principles United Tribe or in Studio Growth Club. Just drop us a DM on Instagram and we can tell you all about it. But cannot wait to be back in your ears next week. Thanks, Beck.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.